What if the universe handed you a blueprint, one so potent, so transformative, that following it for just 90 days could completely reshape your destiny? Not your circumstances. Your destiny. Napoleon Hill spent over 20 years studying the most successful people who ever lived, and what he discovered wasn't luck, wasn't privilege, wasn't talent. It was a set of principles so fundamental, so universally applicable, that anyone who applied them with unwavering commitment would inevitably rise. But here's the catch. Most people will never do it. They'll read about it, nod along, feel inspired for a moment, and then return to the same patterns that have kept them trapped. They'll wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect feeling, and while they wait, life passes them by. But you're different. You're here because something inside you refuses to settle. You sense there's a version of you that's bigger, bolder, more powerful than the one staring back at you in the mirror right now. And you're right, that version exists, but it won't come to you. You have to become it. And the next 90 days, that's your crucible. That's where the old you burns away and something extraordinary emerges. This isn't theory. This isn't philosophy. This is a declaration of war against mediocrity, against doubt, against every limiting belief you've ever held about what you're capable of. Napoleon Hill called it definiteness of purpose, the starting point of all achievement. And for the next 90 days, that purpose becomes your religion, your obsession, your non-negotiable truth. Before we go any deeper into this transformation, I need you to do something real quick. Drop a comment below and tell me where in the world you're watching from. Then subscribe to the channel and hit the like button to lock in your commitment, your location, your decision, your next 90 days. If you're ready to stay consistent, grow your mindset, and be part of something bigger, this is how we start. Let's build this movement together. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to share with you isn't a motivational speech. This is a surgical dissection of how human transformation actually works, pulled directly from the teachings of Napoleon Hill and proven by thousands who've walked this path before you. For the next 90 days, you're not going to try. You're going to transmute. You're not going to hope. You're going to engineer. And by the end, you won't recognize the person you used to be. Napoleon Hill discovered something profound in his decades of research. Success is not an accident, and it's not reserved for the chosen few. It's a formula, and the first ingredient in that formula is what he called a burning desire. Not a wish, not a goal casually written in a journal, a desire so intense, so all-consuming, that it obliterates every doubt, every excuse, every comfortable escape route you've been clinging to. Most people live their entire lives never experiencing this level of desire. They want things, sure. They dream about success, about wealth, about freedom. But when discomfort arrives, when the path gets steep, when sacrifice is required, their desire evaporates like morning mist. And they wonder why nothing changes. Your burning desire must be specific. Hill was adamant about this. You cannot pursue a success. You cannot chase happiness. These are abstractions, fog without form. You must define exactly what you want, down to the finest detail. How much money do you want to earn? By when? What does your ideal day look like? Who have you become? What skills have you mastered? The mind cannot move toward a target it cannot see. So for the next 90 days, your target must be crystal clear, written down, read aloud twice daily, morning and night. This isn't optional. This is the foundation upon which everything else is built. But desire alone is impotent without the second principle, faith. And when Hill spoke of faith, he wasn't talking about religious belief. He was talking about absolute, unshakable conviction in your ability to achieve what you've set out to do. This is where most people stumble. They set the goal, they feel the desire, but deep down, they don't actually believe it's possible for them. They believe it's possible for others, the talented, the lucky, the connected, but not them. And that hidden disbelief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Faith, in Hill's framework, is cultivated through autosuggestion, the practice of repeatedly feeding your subconscious mind with affirmations of your inevitable success. Every morning, you stand before a mirror and you speak your purpose aloud. Not timidly, not with doubt creeping into your voice, with conviction, with power. I am earning $10,000 per month by March 31st. I am disciplined, I am focused, I am unstoppable. Your conscious mind might resist at first. It might whisper, "This is silly, this isn't real." Ignore it, because your conscious mind is the gatekeeper, but your subconscious mind is the engine. And the subconscious doesn't argue. It doesn't question. It accepts what you feed it repeatedly and then sets to work making it real. This is not mysticism. This is psychology. Your subconscious controls your habits, your perceptions, your automatic behaviors. When you impress upon it, day after day, that you are a person who achieves extraordinary things, it begins to align your actions with that identity. You start waking up earlier without needing an alarm. You start making better decisions without conscious effort. You start seeing opportunities that were always there but invisible to your old mindset. And here's where it gets even more powerful. Hill teaches that faith is amplified through emotional intensity. The more feeling you pour into your affirmations, the deeper they penetrate. So when you speak your goals, you don't just recite words. You feel them. You visualize them. You taste the success, feel the weight of the achievement, hear the applause, sense the freedom. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. So when you repeatedly imagine yourself as successful, disciplined, powerful, your mind begins to treat that as your reality. And then something magical happens. Your external reality starts to shift to match it. Opportunities appear, people show up, resources materialize. Not because the universe is rewarding you, but because you've programmed yourself to notice what was always there and to act on it with confidence. But faith without action is delusion. And this brings us to the third principle, specialized knowledge. Hill was unequivocal about this. General knowledge, no matter how vast, is useless. The person who knows a little bit about everything is master of nothing. But the person who becomes an absolute expert in one specific area, that person becomes invaluable. Over the next 90 days, you must commit to mastering one skill, one domain, one craft. Not dabbling, not sampling, mastering. This means deep work. This means saying no to distractions, to shallow learning, to the temptation to constantly switch focus. You pick your lane and you go so deep that you emerge on the other side as someone the world cannot ignore. Let's say you want to master copywriting. For the next 90 days, you study nothing but the greatest copywriters. You dissect their work. You write daily. You analyze what converts and what doesn't. You immerse yourself so completely that the principles become part of your nervous system. By day 90, you're not trying to write good copy. You are a copywriter. That identity shift, that's what creates results. Hill also emphasized the importance of organized planning. Desire is the fuel, faith is the engine, knowledge is the vehicle, but without a map, you're driving in circles. Every Sunday night, you sit down and plan your week in excruciating detail. Not vague intentions, specific blocks of time assigned to specific tasks. Your deep work sessions, your learning time, your physical training, your reflection period, every hour accounted for. Because here's the truth, if it's not scheduled, it won't happen. Your brain will default to comfort, to distraction, to whatever feels easy in the moment. But when you've planned your week with precision, you remove the need for willpower. You simply follow the plan. No negotiation, no debate. The plan is law. And when obstacles arise, and they will, you don't abandon the plan. You adapt it. Hill studied failure extensively and found that temporary defeat is not failure, it's feedback. Most people quit at the first sign of resistance. They try something, it doesn't work immediately, and they conclude it's impossible. But Hill's research showed that success often comes right after what appears to be failure. Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times before creating the light bulb, but he didn't see those as failures. He saw them as 10,000 ways that didn't work, each one bringing him closer to the solution. This mindset, this refusal to accept defeat as permanent, is what separates those who achieve from those who merely attempt. So when you hit a wall over the next 90 days, you don't spiral, you don't question everything. You analyze what happened, adjust your approach, and keep moving. Persistence isn't stubbornly doing the same thing over and over. It's intelligently adapting while staying committed to the end goal. Now, let me tell you about the principle that most people completely misunderstand: the power of the mastermind. Hill discovered that every great achiever surrounded themselves with a group of people who shared their vision, challenged their thinking, and held them accountable. This isn't about networking for the sake of collecting contacts. This is about forming a small, tight circle of individuals who are as committed to growth as you are. Over the next 90 days, you must be ruthless about your associations. If someone in your life consistently drains your energy, mocks your ambitions, or pulls you back toward mediocrity, you create distance. Not with drama, not with announcements. You just quietly withdraw your attention and redirect it toward people who elevate you. And you actively seek out one or two individuals who are further along the path than you are. You study them. You learn from them. You offer value in return. This exchange of energy, ideas, and accountability creates a force multiplier effect that no amount of solo effort can match. But here's the part that will test you most. Hill teaches that you must be willing to go the extra mile, to consistently give more than you're paid for, to deliver more value than expected, to operate from a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. Most people operate on a transactional basis. They calculate exactly how much effort is required, and they give precisely that much, no more, no less. And then they wonder why they never break through. The person who goes the extra mile, who over-delivers, who treats every task as an opportunity to build their reputation, that person becomes indispensable. Over the next 90 days, every single thing you do, no matter how small, you do with excellence. You don't half-ass anything, because your reputation is being built in private long before the world sees your results. And when you finally step into the spotlight, your reputation precedes you. So here's where we stand. You have a burning desire. You're building unshakable faith through daily autosuggestion. You're acquiring specialized knowledge. You're planning with precision. You're persisting through obstacles. You're surrounding yourself with the right people. And you're going the extra mile in everything you touch. These aren't just ideas. These are weapons. And over the next 90 days, you wield them with surgical precision. But there's more. Much more. Because what I just laid out is only the foundation. The real transformation happens when you go deeper, when you master the invisible forces that govern success. And that's exactly what we're about to explore next. The difference between someone who achieves their goals and someone who merely dreams about them comes down to one invisible factor: decision. Not the kind of wishy-washy, I'll try my best decision that people make on New Year's Eve. A real decision. The kind that Napoleon Hill described as cutting off all possibility of retreat. When Hernán Cortés landed in Mexico, he burned his ships. His men couldn't go back, even if they wanted to. They had one option: succeed or perish. That's the level of commitment required for true transformation. Most people never make a real decision because they're addicted to keeping their options open. They want success, but they also want comfort. They want growth, but they also want safety. They want transformation, but they don't want to let go of who they've been. And so they live in this perpetual state of lukewarm effort, never fully committing, never truly failing, never actually succeeding, just existing in the gray zone of mediocrity. Over the next 90 days, you must make one decision that terrifies you. One decision that forces you to burn a bridge, to eliminate a backup plan, to commit so fully that failure would be catastrophic. Maybe it's quitting a soul-sucking job without another one lined up because you're finally betting on yourself. Maybe it's investing every dollar you have into your business idea. Maybe it's ending a relationship that's been keeping you small. Whatever it is, the decision must be irreversible. Because it's only when retreat becomes impossible that you unlock levels of creativity, resourcefulness, and determination you didn't know you possessed. Hill called this the point of no return, and he found that every single person he studied had crossed it. They had made a decision so complete, so final, that their entire being had no choice but to align with it. Your brain is designed to keep you safe, not to make you great. So when you make a real decision, your brain will panic. It will flood you with fear, with doubt, with every rational-sounding reason why you should reconsider. But that's exactly how you know the decision is the right one. The old you is dying, and it's fighting for survival. Let it die, because what emerges on the other side is a version of you that operates on a completely different frequency. Now let's talk about something Hill considered one of the most misunderstood forces in human achievement: the transmutation of sexual energy. Before you dismiss this as outdated or irrelevant, understand what Hill actually discovered. He wasn't talking about suppression or abstinence for its own sake. He was talking about redirecting one of the most powerful forces in human nature, creative, sexual energy, toward the achievement of your goals. Think about it. The drive to create is to build, to achieve at the highest levels, comes from the same source as sexual desire. It's life force energy, and most people squander it. They dissipate it through mindless pleasure-seeking, through constant stimulation, through addiction to instant gratification. But when you learn to channel that energy, when you redirect it toward your mission, you tap into a reservoir of power that most people never access. Over the next 90 days, you're going to practice something Hill called controlled focus. This means you don't allow your energy to leak. You don't scroll through social media for hours. You don't binge-watch shows. You don't engage in activities that deplete you without building anything in return. Every ounce of your energy is sacred, and you guard it like a warrior guards his life. When you feel the pull of distraction, of temptation, of easy pleasure, you pause. You recognize that impulse for what it is, energy-seeking expression, and you redirect it. You channel it into your work, into your training, into your craft. This isn't about becoming a monk, it's about becoming a master of your own energy. And when you do, you'll notice something profound. Your focus sharpens, your ideas multiply, your ability to work for extended periods without fatigue increases dramatically. You're not using willpower to resist temptation. You're transmuting the energy behind the temptation into fuel for your purpose. Hill also discovered that imagination is the workshop where all plans are created, but most people use their imagination against themselves. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They rehearse failure. They visualize rejection, embarrassment, disappointment, and then they wonder why their life reflects those images. So over the next 90 days, you're going to become fanatical about what you allow your imagination to create. Every single day, you spend at least 20 minutes in deliberate visualization. You close your eyes and you construct, in vivid detail, the exact life you're building. You don't just see it, you inhabit it. You feel the confidence of the person you're becoming. You experience the emotions of having already achieved your goal. You speak to yourself the way that future version of you speaks. And you do this so consistently, so intensely, that your subconscious mind begins to accept it as reality. Then something extraordinary happens. Your imagination becomes a magnet. Ideas start flowing, solutions appear, connections manifest. Not because you're manifesting in some woo-woo sense, but because your mind has been programmed to recognize and act on opportunities that align with your vision. But Hill warned about something critical: the 6 ghosts of fear. These invisible forces sabotage more dreams than any external obstacle ever could. The fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love, the fear of old age, and the fear of death. Every single one of these fears operates in the background, whispering limitations into your subconscious, causing you to self-sabotage without even realizing it. Over the next 90 days, you must confront these fears directly. You write them down, you examine them, you trace them back to their source. And then you systematically dismantle them through exposure and action. Fear of poverty. You take calculated financial risks. Fear of criticism. You put your work into the world despite knowing some will judge it. Fear of ill health. You commit to physical excellence. Each fear you face and conquer removes a limitation from your operating system. And by day 90, you're no longer controlled by invisible terror. You're free. Hill also taught about the importance of controlled attention, the ability to focus your mind completely on one task without allowing it to wander. In an age of infinite distraction, This is a superpower. Most people's attention is fractured into 1,000 pieces. They're working on a project while checking their phone, while thinking about dinner, while worrying about a conversation they had yesterday. They're never fully present anywhere. And because of that, they never enter the state of flow where real progress happens. Over the next 90 days, you practice single-pointed focus like a discipline. When you're working, you're only working. Phone in another room, notifications off, door closed. You give yourself completely to the task at hand, and you'll find that 1 hour of focused work produces more results than 8 hours of distracted effort. This isn't about working harder, it's about working with total presence. And here's something Hill emphasized that modern productivity culture often misses: the importance of rest and renewal. You cannot operate at peak intensity for 90 days straight without building in periods of recovery. But rest isn't collapse. It's not binge-watching Netflix until your eyes blur. It's intentional restoration. Once a week, you take a full day where you do nothing related to your goals. You walk in nature. You read for pleasure. You spend time with people you love. You allow your mind to wander without agenda. This isn't laziness. It's strategic recovery. Because it's during these periods of rest that your subconscious mind processes everything you've been feeding it. It's when insights emerge. It's when solutions to problems you've been wrestling with suddenly become clear. The person who works 7 days a week without pause will burn out. The person who rests intentionally will compound their progress exponentially. Now, let me tell you about the principle that separates the top 1% from everyone else: applied faith. It's one thing to believe in your goals when everything's going well. It's another thing entirely to maintain that belief when the world seems to be falling apart around you. Over the next 90 days, you will face tests. Your bank account might get lower before it gets higher. People you trusted might disappoint you. Plans you made might fall through. This is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. This is the universe testing your commitment. Hill found that right before every major breakthrough, there's often a crisis, a moment where it seems like everything is collapsing. Most people quit right here. They interpret the crisis as evidence that they should give up. But the person with applied faith sees it differently. They recognize it as the final test before the breakthrough. They double down. They persist with even more intensity. And inevitably, they break through. So when your test comes, and it will, you don't waver. You don't question. You remember this moment. You remember that the darkness before dawn is always the deepest. And you keep moving forward with absolute certainty that success is inevitable. Hill also taught about the power of enthusiasm. Not fake, performative enthusiasm, but genuine passion for what you're building. Enthusiasm is contagious. When you speak about your vision with fire in your eyes, people feel it. They want to be part of it. They want to support it. But more importantly, enthusiasm is fuel. It's what keeps you going when the logical part of your brain is screaming at you to quit. Over the next 90 days, you cultivate enthusiasm deliberately. You immerse yourself in content that inspires you. You surround yourself with people who are building things. You remind yourself daily why your mission matters. And when you feel that fire starting to dim, you don't ignore it. You tend to it. You feed it. You protect it. Because without enthusiasm, even the most perfect plan becomes drudgery. The person you're becoming over these 90 days isn't just more successful. They're fundamentally different. They think differently. They see the world differently. They respond to challenges differently, and that difference compounds. By day 90, opportunities that would have seemed impossible at day 1 become obvious. Obstacles that would have crushed the old you become minor inconveniences. Relationships that would have drained you no longer have power over you. You've rebuilt yourself from the inside out, but we're not done yet. Because the next phase is where theory becomes reality. It's where principles become practices, and that's exactly where we're heading. Execution is where dreamers are separated from achievers. You can have perfect clarity on your purpose, unshakable faith in your abilities, and specialized knowledge in your field, but if you don't execute with precision and consistency, none of it matters. Napoleon Hill spent years studying why some people with average intelligence and limited resources achieved extraordinary success, while brilliant people with every advantage remained stuck? The answer was always the same: decisive action. The achievers moved. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They didn't overthink. They made a decision and then they backed it up with relentless, focused action. Over the next 90 days, you're going to become an execution machine, not reckless, not impulsive, but decisive. When you see an opportunity aligned with your purpose, you move on it within 24 hours. When you have an idea that could advance your mission, you test it immediately. When you identify a skill gap, you start filling it that same day. This velocity of action creates momentum that becomes its own force multiplier. But here's what most people get wrong about execution. They think it's about doing more. It's not. It's about doing the right things with complete focus. Hill taught about the principle of concentration of effort, directing all your energy toward one primary objective until it's achieved. This goes against everything modern culture teaches you. You're told to diversify, to have multiple income streams, to keep your options open. And while that might make sense eventually, during these 90 days, you focus with laser precision on one goal. Just one, not 3, not 5. One burning obsession that consumes your attention. Because when you concentrate all your mental and physical resources on a single target, you create a force that can break through any barrier. Think about sunlight. Dispersed, it warms. Focused through a magnifying glass, it burns. Same energy, different application. Over the next 90 days, you are the magnifying glass, and your one primary goal is the point of focus. This requires something Hill called controlled habit. Most people are slaves to their habits, operating on autopilot, repeating patterns they established years ago without even realizing it. But you're going to become the architect of your habits. Every morning you perform the same ritual, same time, same sequence. No deviation. Why? Because your brain craves consistency. When you perform the same actions in the same order at the same time every day, they become automatic. You don't waste mental energy deciding whether to do them. You don't negotiate. You just execute. Your morning ritual might look like this. Wake at 5 a.m. Drink water. 10 minutes of visualization. 20 minutes of reading your goals and affirmations aloud. 30 minutes of physical training. Cold shower. Then straight into deep work. Every single day. Without exception. Weekends included. Holidays included. This isn't restriction, this is liberation. Because when your mornings are locked in, everything else flows from a position of strength. You've already won the day before most people have opened their eyes. But rituals alone aren't enough. You need accountability with teeth. Hill discovered that public commitment dramatically increases follow-through. When you keep your goals private, it's easy to quietly abandon them. No one knows. No one judges. But when you make your commitment public, when you tell specific people what you're doing and give them permission to hold you accountable, everything changes. Over the next 90 days, you find one person, just one, who you respect deeply, and you tell them exactly what you're committing to. Every week, you report your progress to them, not in vague terms. With specific data, how many hours of deep work did you complete? How many times did you follow through on your daily rituals? What results did you create? And here's the key. You give this person permission to call you out when you're making excuses. You explicitly tell them, if I start rationalizing or softening my standards, I need you to challenge me. This external accountability, combined with your internal commitment, creates a container so strong that failure becomes nearly impossible. Now let's talk about something Hill considered essential, but that most modern productivity advice ignores: the power of accurate thinking. You can work 16 hours a day, but if you're working on the wrong things, you're just spinning your wheels. Over the next 90 days, you develop the habit of weekly strategic reviews. Every Sunday evening, you sit down and you ask yourself 3 questions. First, what worked this week? You identify the actions that produced results and you commit to doing more of them. Second, what didn't work? You examine failures without emotion, extract the lessons, and make specific adjustments. Third, what's the one thing I must accomplish this coming week to move closer to my goal? Notice one thing, not 10. This simple practice prevents you from drifting. It keeps you aligned with your purpose. And it ensures that your daily execution is always connected to your ultimate objective. Hill also taught about the principle of learning from adversity. Over the next 90 days, things will go wrong. Count on it. A client will fall through. A project will fail. An opportunity you were counting on will disappear. When this happens, most people spiral. They question everything. They lose momentum. They start doubting their path. But you're going to respond differently. You're going to treat every setback as data. You're going to ask, what is this teaching me? What adjustment does this require? And then you're going to extract the lesson and keep moving. Hill found that some of the most successful people he studied had faced devastating failures, bankruptcy, betrayal, complete loss. But they used those experiences as fuel. They learned things through adversity that success never would have taught them. And those lessons became the foundation for even greater achievement. So when adversity comes, you don't avoid it. You mine it for wisdom. There's another element of execution that separates amateurs from masters: emotional control. Your emotions are powerful, but they're also volatile. Left unchecked, they'll sabotage your progress. You'll be riding high one day, convinced you're unstoppable, and crushed the next day, ready to quit. This emotional volatility destroys consistency. Over the next 90 days, you practice emotional steadiness. This doesn't mean becoming robotic or suppressing feelings. It means not allowing your feelings to dictate your actions. You feel the fear and you act anyway. You feel the doubt and you show up anyway. You feel the frustration and you persist anyway. Hill taught that your emotions are like weather, constantly changing, largely out of your control. But your commitment is like bedrock. It doesn't shift with the weather. By the end of 90 days, you've trained yourself to maintain consistent action regardless of your emotional state. This is power. One of the most practical tools Hill provided was the importance of written plans. Not vague intentions, specific, detailed, written plans. Over the next 90 days, every Sunday you write out your plan for the week. You break down your one primary goal into weekly milestones. Then you break those milestones into daily actions, and you schedule those actions into specific time blocks. When Monday arrives, you don't wake up wondering what to do. You look at your plan and you execute it, step by step, hour by hour. This removes decision fatigue. It removes the temptation to procrastinate. You've already decided what needs to be done. Now you just do it. And at the end of each day, you review what you accomplished. You check off completed tasks. You note what got skipped and why. And you adjust the next day accordingly. This level of planning might seem rigid, but it's actually what creates freedom. Because when you know exactly what you need to do, and when you're going to do it, your mind can fully engage with the work instead of constantly worrying about what you should be doing. Hill also emphasized the importance of personal initiative. Don't wait to be told what to do. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect moment. You see what needs to be done and you do it. Over the next 90 days, you become someone who leads from wherever you are. If you're in a job you don't love, you don't just coast. You find ways to add value, to solve problems, to exceed expectations. Why? Not for your boss, for you. Because every time you take initiative, you're strengthening your self-image as someone who makes things happen. You're building the habit of proactive action, and when the opportunity comes to break free and pursue your own path, you'll have already developed the muscle of leadership. There's also the principle of budgeting time and money. Hill found that successful people are meticulous about both. They don't let time slip away unconsciously. They don't spend money impulsively. Over the next 90 days, you track every hour and every dollar. Not to restrict yourself, but to gain clarity. You write down how you spent your time each day. You track every expense. And once a week, you review both. You ask, did this expenditure of time or money move me closer to my goal? If the answer is no, you eliminate it. This isn't about becoming a miser with your time or money. It's about becoming intentional. Because what you measure, you can manage. And what you manage, you can optimize. Now, here's where most people fall apart. They start strong, they build momentum, and then something external disrupts their rhythm. A family emergency, a sickness, an unexpected obligation, and they use that disruption as permission to abandon their commitment. But Hill taught that the person who achieves lasting success doesn't stop when obstacles appear. They adapt. Over the next 90 days, you adopt the mantra, "I will find a way or I will make one." Missed your morning workout because of an emergency? You do it at lunch. Couldn't complete your deep work because of an interruption? You stay up an extra hour. The specific timing isn't sacred. The commitment is, you don't let external circumstances dictate your internal standards. You bend, but you don't break. The final element of execution is celebrating progress. Most people only celebrate when they reach the finish line. But 90 days is a long journey, and if you don't acknowledge wins along the way, motivation will fade. So every week, you identify one victory, no matter how small, and you acknowledge it. Maybe you completed all 7 daily rituals. Maybe you had a breakthrough in your deep work. Maybe you resisted a temptation that would have derailed you in the past. You write it down. You feel the satisfaction. You let yourself appreciate how far you've come. This isn't about becoming complacent. It's about reinforcing the identity you're building. Every small win is evidence that you're becoming the person you committed to being. And as that evidence accumulates, your belief in yourself becomes unshakable. By now you're starting to see the pattern. This isn't about one massive heroic effort. It's about small, deliberate actions repeated with absolute consistency. It's about showing up every single day, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it, because that's where transformation happens, in the moments when the old you would have quit and the new you shows up anyway. But there's one more critical piece we haven't covered yet, and it's the piece that determines whether your 90-day transformation becomes permanent or whether you slip back into old patterns. That's what we're diving into next. The tragedy of transformation isn't failure to achieve it. It's achieving it and then losing it. Hill studied this phenomenon extensively and found that many people would experience massive breakthroughs. They'd build wealth, achieve recognition, accomplish their goals, only to watch it all crumble. Why? Because they hadn't built the infrastructure to sustain success. They'd changed their actions, but not their identity. They'd modified their behavior, but not their mindset. And the moment external pressure increased or motivation waned, they reverted to their default programming. Over the next 90 days, you're not just changing what you do, you're changing who you are. And that requires going deeper than habits and discipline. It requires rewiring your self-concept at the most fundamental level. Hill called this the mastermind principle when applied internally, creating harmony between all parts of yourself. Most people are at war with themselves. One part wants success while another part craves comfort. One part is ambitious while another part is terrified of failure. One part wants to transform while another part clings desperately to familiarity. This internal conflict creates massive friction. You take 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. You make progress and then self-sabotage. Over the next 90 days, you're going to create internal alignment. This starts with radical self-honesty. You sit down and you write out every part of yourself that's resisting change. What are you afraid of losing if you succeed? What payoff are you getting from staying stuck? Maybe staying small means you don't have to deal with criticism. Maybe struggling financially means you can maintain the identity of being scrappy and relatable. Maybe being out of shape means you don't have to face the vulnerability of being seen. Whatever it is, you name it. You drag it into the light. Because what you don't acknowledge, you can't address. Once you've identified the resistant parts, you don't fight them. You integrate them. You have a conversation with each one. You acknowledge their concerns. You thank them for trying to protect you. And then you show them a new way forward. For example, if part of you is afraid that success will make you arrogant and isolated, you don't suppress that fear. You address it directly. I'm committed to staying humble and connected to people no matter how successful I become. Success doesn't have to change my character. It can amplify the best parts of who I am. This internal dialogue might seem strange at first, but it's incredibly powerful. When all parts of you are aligned with the same goal, when there's no internal resistance, your power multiplies exponentially. You're no longer fighting yourself. You're moving in one unified direction. Hill also taught about the importance of a definiteness of major purpose that extends beyond personal gain. He found that people who were motivated solely by money or recognition eventually burned out or lost their drive, but those who connected their goals to a larger purpose, to serving others, to creating something meaningful, to leaving a legacy, maintained their intensity for decades. Over the next 90 days, you're going to connect your personal goals to something bigger. If you're building a business, it's not just about making money, it's about solving a problem that matters. If you're mastering a skill, it's not just about personal achievement, it's about what you'll be able to create and contribute once you've mastered it. This shift from "what can I get" to "what can I give" doesn't make you less ambitious. It makes you unstoppable. Because now your motivation isn't dependent on how you feel or what rewards you're receiving. It's anchored in a purpose that transcends your personal circumstances. And before you leave, remember this: every great achievement begins with a definite decision. If this message resonated with you, commit now. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like,